Hello and welcome. Why I'm really small today. Am I smaller than usual? I think I'm smaller than usual. We'll go with it. We'll go with it. I feel a little less tired today, but I still feel too tired to dare put too much effort into this stream. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing the same thing we did in the last stream, the last Greek stream, where we've got our notebook here, which you can't see. I haven't turned the hand cam on. We're doing the PDF stream today. And I'm just going to sort of be writing some of it down, and we'll think about the words as we write them. Yes, we're not totally lazy here. I suppose if I really wanted, if I just wanted a physical copy of this for which to write on, I'd probably just write on the PDF itself. But we'll do that, and depending on how I feel, I'll maybe let me turn my music down a little bit. It's copyrighted music, I'm afraid, and I haven't set up my YouTube thing, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It matters not. Okie dokie. Let's see. First, we're going to figure out where we was. So the last word was pros to do laws. Ah, here we go. It's SD pros to do laws. We found where we are. That was easy. So let's just sort of have a go at this and see how we feel, and maybe if I feel good about it, I'll actually have a go at doing what we would normally do with the Greek streams. Well, I'll get the hand cam out, but I'll see how I feel. Let's see. Let me just make sure everything's in the right place. Okay. And fortunately, I feel confident enough to do this. If I was the Monday and Tuesday, I was so tired that I think if I were to dare to do this, I would make so many spelling mistakes that it would ruin my notebook. But oh come on, is my pen not working? Oh, don't tell me, don't give me this luck. Oh no, it's working. Okay. Let's see. We got hey Despoina. Despoina. Oh, so yesterday I was pretty productive actually with my comic sites. I want to rant about this. Or maybe I should hold it till tomorrow. No, I'll do it now. I'll do it now because it'll wake me up. I'm sure. Let me go find it. It'll be a quick thing. It is that. Okay, here it is. So I was doing a study. The other day, yesterday, of some anime colors, specifically colors. So I had this screenshot here of I forget the name, Record of Lost War or something, some old anime, and I need to go to the toilet. I'm sorry. I'll be right back. Let me be right back on this. There we go. That's convenient. Okay, I think that's all on the screen. I've got to go. Okay, I'm back. What I was going to say about this thing before we get back to the Greek was so I had this screenshot here, and I've traced over the screenshot of these are my lines, and I coloured it all. And there's no remnants of the screenshot left in this. It's entirely my drawing. But in this one here, and this leftmost one here, these are the original colours from the screenshot. And they're from the screenshot and not a cell. I don't have the cell of this, so I don't know just how accurate they are. But anyway, that's like the original one. So it looks pretty good. Then I made this one here. Which where I did it where the shadow shapes and stuff are the same, but I've picked my own colours. It's sort of what I would normally go with. And for the purposes of like making a comic, I think that these original colours, there's something not quite right about them. They feel too washed out and low contrast. So I made this and it's slightly high contrast. However, it goes too far. I think it looks garish. It looks like a lousy web comic. It looks amateurish. And then after moping about it for a few hours, I came back and I thought, okay, what if I did something like in between, and I did this, which was like kind of in between the two, and this looks pretty good. I think it's bold enough that it kind of works. I think with the style, I think what it is, I think is so these lines here, these are much thicker than in the anime original, and this is important because in a comic the panels are small. When you watch like an anime or something, you're watching at full screen, and so you can see the lines, and they're thick enough at full screen. But if you were to just shrink that screenshot down to the size of what it would be in a little comic panel, unless it's like a huge splash page, but it's generally going to be a small panel, those lines will be too thin, and the whole thing won't look right. You have to make there's like a minimum thickness you can really get away with in a comic for your lines. So I made the lines thicker to sort of suit that, and I think that this inherently gives the whole thing a bolder look. It's got bolder lines, and so if the colours are washed out, they're low, they're kind of low saturation, it doesn't really go well together. You have to have for bold lines, you have to have bolder colours, and so I think that's what I've learned. I think that I learned something a bit about my endeavours in all this yesterday. So that was productive. I think that was productive. Anyway, back to what we was doing before. There we go. Okay, I should put on some music for this. Because otherwise it's a very boring stream. Let's find something. Let's see. Music. We've got this cool playlist, which is somewhat ambient. If I turn it up a bit, maybe that'll add background noise. It's very quiet. It'll get louder, I think. Maybe, who knows? Okay. Yeah. I think I've got everything done now. Let's get back to our writing. What else have been? I still haven't gone around to fixing my porch. I haven't mentioned this. The sort of roof tarp part of the porch on my house is falling down. It's falling down from when I had someone climb through the top window, and they've kicked it. They've kicked it a bit, and it's fallen out of place. I think I'm hoping that the solution is simple, that I can just go up there and sort of hammer it back into place and stick some nails in. That'll hold it in place for the end of time. I hope so, but I haven't yet dared to do it in case that it turns out to be really brittle, and when I go up there to start hammering it, it all starts falling apart, and then I have to go and then it becomes a much more involved repair. That would really suck, and it would also take a longer time. So I'm hoping it's like a 5-minute job, but I can't just take 5 minutes out of my day to do it in case it's not a 5-minute job. If it's like a 3-hour job, then I'm in trouble. and then I've taken the tarp off, and then if it starts raining, and then I'm in trouble. It's not a tarp. It's like I don't know what you call it. It's like it's probably not made out of lead. It's probably like tin or something. But it's the roof of of the porch. It is metal, though. So I'm hoping that it's malleable. Alright, we've got one word so far. We've written one word. And then she says, May Flueri. Oh dear. Have we had that word before? I think we have. I'm suspecting it means, like, but don't be difficult or lazy or something. The story in this really sucks. It's a really crappy story. So far, at least. The way I think that this book is probably going to go is the story part is only for, like, the first half or so of the book. But then it'll sort of, like, the story will just sort of give way to, like, actual ancient Greek writers, which will be things like mythology and history and stuff like that, and they'll be much more interesting than this fictional story, which seems really kind of obsessed with slaves and their masters being terrible people. See, it's not even that like in the story, like the master has slaves and that's why he's a terrible person. He's a terrible person in addition to having slaves. In the other book, in the Aladdin, basically the Aladdin equivalent of this, the story of that where the guy also has slaves because he's an ancient Roman. But like it's just a fact of life, and he's not actually a terrible person. He's like a totally decent person. He just happens to have slaves, and he treats his slaves quite well, actually. But in this one, the masters, like they've got like, I think we've seen like several masters and a mistress here, and they're just terrible people. And they're just constantly ragging on them. Afflia. Disgraziata. Afflia. I wonder what that is. I'm curious. I kind of actually want to know. I wonder if that Afflia. Disgrace. This is another insult, isn't it? Hold on. Let me get my book. Where's my dictionary? Let's see. Let's go to A in the dictionary. We're gonna go find Afflia. I've got a feeling it's another insult. Where's Feta? Where does Feta occur in the dictionary? I think I've gone past Feta. No. Feta. Oh no, it's early on. Hold on. Before or after lambda? It's before lambda even, okay. Before iota. Ah, okay. Afflia. Afflios. Afflos. See, I was thinking of like athlete, but that's different. That's a different word. It's not that Afflios. I think it's Afflios. Wretched. Amazing. It's just another insult. It's just another insult. I'm learning more insults than anything else in this book. It's like, yes. I didn't know what flure mean, but I think it probably means like don't be lazy or something. I don't even know what did the my goodness, my goodness. They just rag on the slaves so much. They hate their slaves. It's crazy. It's crazy. These people are crazy. They don't get paid for this. They just suffer. Son learns why slavery is bad. All right. Legusin. Ah, I forgot what Legusin meant. Was that like Utu ga Legusin oi argoe? I think it means rather than I think it means like speak. I think it means speak. Like stop yapping. They're saying stop yapping. Legusin. Oi argoi. That's another. There we go. There we go. Another. Oi argoi doiloi. You lazy slaves. Or I didn't know there was multiple slaves here. Yeah, she's berating multiple slaves at the same time. I think unless I've got my grammar wrong, there, and it is one slave. You know, Argos instead of Argoi. I guess our brain is working today. In that case, we're able to. I thought the way it was going to go was I was going to be able to think of any of the words, and we were just sort of gonna sort of aimlessly write down words, which wouldn't be a total waste of time, because I would have to write them down anyway at some point. But it is good that we're somewhat awake. Garpoin. I think that meant work. Effalucin. Does that mean like hurry or go do it or something? To go, maybe, I think. Might be wrong there. Effalucin. Kai, that means and. Kaya diatauto. I think dia means through, or something other words similar to through. Diatauto. I forget what tauto means. It's one of those words I keep on forgetting. It's I don't know. I forgot what it means. ton despote. Ton despotain. Oh, look at that! We got a sigh. We don't see sighs too. Is that sigh? I'm pretty sure that's sigh. Seguusin. Segu. Hiasimo. I'm curious to see what this word means, because we very rarely get this letter. This is a very uncommon letter to use in the Greeks. It's the second to last in the alphabet. And what was it? It was Sego. Sego. Where is it? Sego. It means to blame, to find fault with. They're just it's just nothing but insults. This book is terrible. This story is terrible. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Alright, we're going to go to the next page now somehow, so let's see. Because I'm going to be blocking half of it. No, I think that's alright. That's alright. I'm still blocking a little bit of it, but it'll probably be fine. It'll probably be fine. My goodness, my goodness. Altus. Altus poen Kalene. Then the thing? Colizo? No, I don't know. It might be the word. But anyway, I got right. Poean. No. Ponnayan. Ponnayan. Kaleye. Kaleye. That's a U, not an N. Allah, which means other or rather. Rather spuede, meaning hurry. Spuede, none, that means now, I think. And half the fingers are cut off, so I can't clearly see the words. It's a bit blurry on that there. Ura, nun ura. I don't know what that one is. Ura? Kairos. Kairos is... I can't... It doesn't come to me. Was that's horror, I think. I can't tell. It's too blurry. In fact, it's so blurry that I better actually look it up right now. Because when I come to doing it last time, I won't know that it was. So that's horror. Let's go find it. Horror. It was indeed horror. Okay, horror. Any limited time or period fixed by natural laws. A season. The seasons. Okay. The climate. Blooming season. What is it? Do I have a bookmark? Put a bookmark in that, and then let's go to Kairos and see what Kairos is. Because it says just barely visible there. Horror means Kairos. But what is Kairos then? Is T after R? It is. Okay, Kairos. No, we've got to go find Iota. That's way early on. Iota is after Theta, yes. Kairos. Oh, there's two of them. Which one is it? It is this one. Kairos. Due measure. The right season, the right time. The right time. Spude nun hora. Garesti. Soi badezen pros ton despota kai huda felen. Okay, I get it. Where's my pencil? I'm gonna just write on my book. Right time before I forget that. Right time. There we go. Because I suspect if I don't do that, that will cause me problems. Okie dokie. Garesti. Garesti soy. I think that means you. Badizayan, that means to walk. Or to go. Badizayan. Pros, that means towards. Pros ton desporten, to the master, the despot. Despotean. Kai Huda is like where we get words like humidity from to mean water, like hydro. Huda. Huda, Feyrain, carry, I think. Feyrain, auto, yourself, I think. We're doing it. We're doing it. Okay. Hey, men. Men means like meanwhile. Un, I think that means then. Men un dule. Dule is like the feminine of doulos, meaning slave, so slave girl. Bradeos means slow. Bradeos Badeze walks slowly towards the crane, and I think that's fountain, or the town. Either the town or the fountain. They're similar words. Dule. Bradeos. Bradeos Badezean. Badeze. Badeze pros. Pros 10 Grainen. I will say one thing about doing all this is that my ability to write the Greek alphabet letters, I don't want to say it's improved, but it's become much more natural. That is to say, when you're learning like maths and science and you have to use Greek letters, I find it's that they were always awkward to write. You know, you sort of think, well, how do I write a lambda? And you think, oh, I've got to do this kind of curve and then this kind of curve, and or you have to draw like a pi and like, okay, this part and then that part or whatever, or like theta, and like it's always sort of it was always sort of an awkward letter, and if you had to do some of the more complicated ones like zeta or c, they're always like what even is that? It's just some squiggle. But doing this doing these as as an actual alphabet which is being used in actual words and sentences, you begin writing them like you would normal words, and there's no, it's not quicker or slower. I mean, it's still slow because it's not my native alphabet, but it's still it's interesting. It's interesting. I think if I were to ever have a go at like maths or science again, I'd probably be quite quick at writing them, and I'd write them in ways that would perhaps seem sloppy, but are actually perfectly normal. I don't know. It's a strange experience. And here we go. Here the spoiler. Oh, we've got an EM dash here. EM dash detected. Oh no, that's the wrong word. There's two AM dashes, one on the bottom line as well, and I was copying the wrong one. Megas. Megas mean big. Like mega. Ga. Galifos estin en te odo. Hodo. Hodo? Hodo. Hodo. There's a big lithos, a big stone in the Hodo. But what's the Hodo? NT Hodo. Proscurai kai epi te megala lifo cafeze epeta di ectu megalon lifot pros ten dulen blepe here uketi pros ten crenen bedeze ala pros mega dendron who despoina kaile auto kai tipo and afflio again the face and deity. What is the Hodo? I'm curious. I want to know what the Hodo is. Why is there a big stone in the Hodo? Where is Omega? Omicron rather. Okay, we need Hodo. Hodo. Odo. We got OD. And we need Odo, but it's probably Odos or something. Let's see. Okay, an Odos is a path. Okay, okay. Are there any other words? I think it might be path. Entrance, pathway, entrance approach, highway. I think that's it. There's a big rock in the road. That does make sense. I thought it was going to be like some sort of house or building. I thought, why is there a big rock in the building? But it means house. I'm going to write it down because I'm only going to have to look it up otherwise. Path. Hodo. Oh yeah. Also, this whole like town or village or wherever they're living in is a disaster. Their gardens don't work. Their trees are dangerous. Everyone's falling over. There's rocks in the fields. It's a disaster. Proskuroi. Or Proskure. Proskure Kai. Kai. Is that Epi or Happy? I think that's Epi. Yeah, I've never heard of Happy. Epi to Megalon Lifu. As I write M instead of Mu. Megalo. Megalolifo. Cafeze. Epeta di di ecto Ectomegalosaurus. I wrote M again. Megalo. Litho. Litho. Rose Tain Dule. Rose Tain Dule Blepe. Blepe means to see. Oh, we've done a page. That's pretty good. Here de Ucetipros tain crane embeds a Alapros megadendron. I wonder how close we are to the end of the chapter. We've surely got to be getting close now. This chapter 4 has been the longest so far, I feel. Oh, oops. Ukete Pros. Tain. Tain Cranane. Cranane definitely means fountain. Badeze. Or town. I don't know. I definitely don't know what it definitely means then. Greetings and salutations. Hello, Crespian. We are Greeking today. We're sort of Greeking. What we're doing is I've got this PDF here of this Greek book here, and I'm rewriting it into a notebook which I have in real life here, so that I can not only because that I can better pay attention to the specific words and spellings in it, and also so I can write over it in what these words mean in English. And we're doing a bit of half and half today. We're sort of half translating and half just sort of writing it so that we can translate another day, because I'm very tired, so I don't think I'm capable of it. But it's been more learning than I was expecting. We've learned such words as aphlios, which means like terrible person, accursed or something. Hmm. We're learning lots of insults. The story in this book is dreadful. But currently they're doing something with a rock. They found a rock in the path, and I'm not sure quite what they're doing with it. They found a big rock, and their Alapros megadendron. I think they're gonna get it out of the path. I don't know where they want to put it though. Pros means two. Pros mega like big. Mega dendron, and dendron means tree. A dendron. And I bet people who are like into trees. When will you upgrade to the Philogalos? I'm not sure the pronunciation of it there. I don't know it. Let me Google what the Philogalos is. Let's have again. Philogelos. Jokes, I see. The Jests of Hierocles and Philogelos is a free Greek language book in late antiquity. What does late antiquity mean? Ah, a collection of jokes. I see, I see. A scholar ordered a silversmith to prepare a lantern. When the latter asked how big he wanted it, he replied, like this, for 8 people. I see. I see. Very, very, I see. That joke went over my head. A lantern for 8 people. Oh no, where was I? I was somewhere around here. Bruise Megadendron. Ah, there we go, Dendron. My D's, my lowercase deltas here are getting sloppy. They're starting to look like, I don't know, they're like a musical notation. That thing. Un despoina. Oh, they just don't leave these slaves alone. Ah, Philod jealous. I see, I see. Despoina. Despoina Calais. Calais means cools. Calais Alto. Altain. Altain. Kai. Kai. T poes. Aflia. T means Y, I think. T. Was this supposed to be music? I see an error. I see there's it's been up there for it's been up there for over a month now. I think it's just a permanent feature. it's not a music thing. It's just a poster on my wall. It's just here forever now. But that probably means that the audio is actually too quiet to hear. Let me crank it up a bit. There is vaguely ambient music in the background. Vaguely ambient. Because I feared that if I had any actual music, it would be too distracting for me. But who knows? Who knows? Or maybe it would just be a strange thing. You know, this somewhat reminds me of there's a story, a little short like anecdote that is told in a book. I forget what book it is, but where there was this like Disney animator, and he's a youngster at the company, and he wants to learn from this older, more experienced Disney animator, and learn how the ways of the trade. And he asks him, he asks him, he say, you know, do you listen to classical music while you work? And to which the guy really angrily responds that he's not smart enough to think of 2 things at once. So he does, but and I wonder about this. I wonder about this because he specifically said classical music. He didn't just say any music. He didn't say any music. He specifically said classical music. Now, I wonder. Most people today, including probably this youngster in the story, probably consider classical music to be this sort of background noise. It's something you don't really pay attention to. Hence, the anecdote is a funny anecdote because it's sort of seeming like, oh, it's like saying he can't walk and chew gum at the same time. He's not smart enough for that. However, if you go back, like, not even that far, a couple generations, classical music was not background music at all. It was something that you paid a lot of money to go to listen to, and you listened to it. It was, you know, it was the main attraction. You would go to a classical music performance, and you would sit there and you would listen to the classical music, and you paid attention to it. It was quite a like it's sophisticated music. You know, it's not designed to be background music, and so potentially that this old guy who says he can't do two things at once, perhaps he's angry at this stupid question that the youngster is asking, because it's sort of like saying, do you solve maths problems while you animate? It's like, well, are you an idiot? What are you talking about? I can't do two things. I'm not smart enough to do two things at one time. And of course, the youngster who's sharing this anecdote, who's now an old man himself, I wonder if he ever even considered this. You know, if the guy had simply said, "Oh, you know, do you listen to My Chemical Romance while you while you animate?" he might have said, "Yeah, sometimes I do," because modern music, it's not really that. It's not the same thing. You can pay attention to it, but you don't have to pay attention to it. It's not. There's none of that sort of cultural thing about it. You know, like that classical music once had. And I wonder if he had just said, "Do you listen to music, or do you know?" Like turn on the radio or TV or something, just something to have in the background, he may well have said yes. Though then again, I do you know, a lot of the things I do, for some things it's obvious that you can't really listen to music to. You know, if you're trying to like solve some maths problem, you really can't listen to music like that. You know, you can't have any kind of distractions. It's really difficult. But I find even with art, I do a lot of art, and if I'm like sketching, I really can't listen to music. I try to, because, you know, it's kind of boring without music, but I just can't do it. I just can't do it. It's actually too distracting. And I wonder if in this anecdote here of this Disney animator, I wonder if, you know, when you're doing some key animation stuff, that's probably really difficult. You're drawing these poses and these angles, and you have to make it really dynamic, and you have to think of timing and all this kind of stuff. How can you possibly listen to music while doing that? That's tough. That's thinking work. What? Get out of here! No, I don't know what ban 101 kick. Explode. You know, but I do wonder. It's always, and I think the both of them are probably dead at this point. They're both probably dead at the point. The old guy would have died years ago, and the youngster is probably an old man now. He's probably dead as well. I get the thing that people think classical music is all chamber music. Even then, honestly, consider the significance of, you know, the kind of music you listen to in a church. A lot of them, they're the psalms and, you know, their prayers and psalms and all that sort of stuff. Surely, if you were taking religion seriously, you were going to, surely you should pay attention to that, right? You know, let me put it in the context of what. Like the same kind of thing. Imagine you're like an ancient Greek pagan, and you're at the animal sacrifice, and the priest or whatever, he starts delivering the prayer, and it sounds like chamber music. Surely, if you were quite a pious person, you should pay attention to that, right? It's not just background noise. It's an important ritual thing. The chamber music is kind of like that, don't you think? So even then, you know, you should pay attention to it, even though it's kind of hard to understand. It's all kind of just sort of sounds like noise to me, but. You know, but I do wonder. I think I don't know when exactly classical music became background noise. I'm really not sure. You know, because there's always been this sort of there's this sort of thing of you know, like you hear of I think Leonardo da Vinci says it. He's in like the 1500s or so. He somewhere around there. He talks about Michelangelo, and he talks about how Michelangelo is in this dusty workshop covered in, you know, marble dust, and it's all dirty and stuff because he's a sculptor. Whereas a painter, he lives in a luxurious, nice, clean room, you know, where he has nice carpets and there's music playing in the background. He says there is music playing in the background, or I don't think he says in the background, but there is music playing. So he's listening to music in his luxurious place. That kind of implies that he's not paying attention to the music. You know, that's very different from going to like an opera house or something, and you're sitting down and you are there for the music. If it's just in your house, it's as if it's like just always there. That's kind of different, don't you think? Although then again, that's kind of, maybe that's like saying, maybe again in like the medieval times, maybe you're the king and you talk about what a king should have. You say, oh yes, there should be a jester making jokes and doing silly stuff in the court. And if you say it in that same kind of context, it kind of sounds like you're not paying attention to the jester. But of course you would pay attention to the jester. They're not just behaving for nobody. They're not just performing for nobody, right? There has to be an audience, right? They don't just go around doing cartwheels aimlessly around the castle. But I wonder. There's also just sort of generally, I think there's like the cultural aspect of it. In the past, it was I don't know what the word for it is, but it was like socially it was like the best way to be was to be cultured and well read, and you had to know all your arts and poetry and music and all this stuff. If you knew these things, you'd be more appraised in society. You'd rise up the ranks of the aristocracy if you could know your poets and stuff. And you'd go to their house and there would be some music playing, and if you said, oh, I don't really pay much attention to that, it's just background noise, that would make you seem like an idiot. Surely, instead you have to. Oh yes, this is Beethoven's so. This is describing the ancient Greek mythological tale of so and so. You would know what it is, and you better talk all about it, and that show that you're educated and you're cultured. But to do that, you would have to pay attention to it. It can't be just background music. So it makes me. I wonder when did it become the standard that classical music was background music? When did this happen? Or maybe another one is going against the church thing, specifically like the Catholics. It's all Latin, right? They do a lot of Latin stuff, and a lot of people, they don't really know Latin. It's not they're like magic words to them. Maybe they'll read a translation at some point, but it's not really important to them. They just sort of say, "Oh yes, oh Deus Dixit," and blah blah blah. And I wonder if it's just because at one point they spoke in Latin because people spoke Latin, because the Bible was in Latin, the Vulgate Bible was in Latin. It was just a thing. It wasn't intended to be incomprehensible. You were supposed to be able to understand it. And I wonder, what point did that change? They were doing this stuff in Latin. At some point, people stopped knowing what they were even talking about. The loss of recognition of polymaths has been terrible. It has, but in a way, it's kind of it's understandable. In a way, it's understandable. You see, before the you go back in the past. If you was a typical polymath, you knew a lot about everything. You could almost know everything. It was possible. If you was a smart guy, you could kind of know everything that your society knew of. You think of like people like Empedocles and stuff. I think it was Empedocles, I'm not sure, who would, ancient Greek philosopher guy who would walk around and he would say, oh yes, the clothes I wore, I weaved myself. With sheep's wool, which with sheep I raised myself. These glass vials I carry on my belt, I made the glass myself, and the leather belt itself I made myself, and even the buckle I made myself with metal that I wrought myself. And he took pride that he knew all these things. He in effect for his time he knew everything. He knew all the various crafts, and there weren't that many. He could make all the things that these ancient Greek people could make. And so he was a polymath. He knew all these things. But you can't do that today. It's not possible. You can't, to become like a physicist and like astrophysicist or something. that's a lifetime of studying. To get to the point where you can read, frontline scientific journals about, whatever scientific field, it's decades of learning for that one super specific field. And that's just to understand it. To be able to contribute to it, it's a lifetime. It's a lifetime for one field. Because things have progressed so far now. And it's the same, and there are so many fields today. It's impossible, to become a master artist and a master musician and a master craftsman and a master doctor, and you can't do it. You would need 1,000 years to live. The field of learning has advanced so much that it's impossible to become an impressive polymath. You can become and I don't mean to be insulting here, but I think you can become a trivial polymath. You can learn a little bit about a bunch of things for fun, but you're not really useful to society. Someone who is useful to society is a hyper specialist who knows one thing. He's the guy who spent 50 years learning about astrophysics or something, and then he learns something useful to society. Whereas the jack of all trades, master of none, he can do a lot of party tricks. He can tell you a little bit about everything. But I think that's probably why we don't have polymathy, I guess you could say, is not quite as important. However, less than a century ago, there was still a lot of education for Latin. There was, and this is sort of what I was getting onto. What I was about to get onto is when whether it's Greek or Latin, it's very useful for English. You learn what a lot of words mean, and then in a way it kind of it puts a lot of structure to what is otherwise chaos. Words that are just words, and you just learn them for words. But then you learn the origin of these words, and then Latin. How is the Latin? The Latin is not Latining today, but I was sort of talking about Latin, but this is not Latin. This is the other one. This is the other one. Slushy. This is Greek. But what I was saying was, by learning these languages, Latin and Greek, that not only do they put the English language in order, they add structure and sense to the English language, and suddenly your words they make more sense. They're not just this words means that. It's like the word humidity. And you think, oh, it means humidity, right? You don't think about it much; it just means humidity. But then you learn the origin. Humi meaning like water, and then idity, I guess the idity part, the end part. That's like it's like an additive. I mean, it's like humidity, and suddenly it's not just this random word anymore, but it has structure to it. It has clear meaning, and all words have clear meaning. At least most words, about like 70% of the words in English are from Latin and Greek, from one way or another, whereas the others are more Germanic, and I don't know that language. But once you suddenly, and then you start reading things, and you start looking at with more clarity. I mean, that one doesn't really work because I can connect humidities to humid. Okay, but what does humid mean? What does humid mean? It's it's it connect. Okay. Okay. Humid means humidity. Humidity means humid. But okay, humidity. Humid ether. And you can probably figure out these ones on your own when you look at them. But there's a lot of words where you don't make these connections, and they're just they just are what they are. Especially once you get to like science and medicine and stuff, and you start seeing weird words in that. It's sort of none of it seems to make any sense. You think like, oh, what's electrolysis? It's just electrolysis. But then you learn what electro means, and you learn what lysis means, and now it all just makes sense, And yeah. Okay, there you go. You got a humidifier and then dehumidifier. But with this, then you could probably think of when you see the structure of it, and you see D is like it's dehumidifier. It's like anti-humidifier or something. It undoes the humidity or something. And then if you know other words like D, then you can start thinking, well, what about a rehumidifier, or a super humidifier, or whatever, like, anti-humidifier or something, and these words technically do connect together, but we don't use them because we don't think of our language like this. We just see words as they are, but then once you start seeing this clarity, and this is the real reason. This is the real reason why Latin was taught in schools so much. This is the reason why Latin was taught in schools, and why no matter what you're studying, you had to learn Latin or Greek. Because when you can communicate with words in a way that is clear to you, that you know at a deeper level what these words mean, and you can manipulate them, and that allows you to not only communicate, but it allows you to think. It allows you to think. You big brain, and then you can just sort of you can put the world in your mind in order. Or, I'm sounding like Jordan Peterson here. But it's true, and that is the reason. I believe that is the reason. It's about thinking. When we think in large parts, to think at a high level, we have to use language. We have to abstract things, and put them in order in our head, and being able to have a strong grasp of communication. It makes that work better. Something like that. They really messed up flammable and inflammable. How did they mess up flammable? I don't think I haven't actually encountered the word the whatever flammer or something comes from. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously it must have been fire, but I wonder, able to be flamed. So, that's obviously what flammable, and then unable to be flamed. That's inflammable. But I don't know. I don't recognize the word flammer. Maybe is that what would what's it called? You get like the Greek and Latin. They have words like combustible and ignis. I think for fire, and there's probably some sort of flame related word that uses ignis or something. But or maybe flam. I'll Google it. I'll Google it to cease being an idiot. Flammable etymology. From the medieval ad inflammabilis, inflammare. I guess it is Latin then. Flammare. I see. I guess it's not too common of a word. Flammare. To set on fire. You know what? I should have paid more attention to Harry Potter. They have flammare in there as one of their wizard spells. From inflammare, to cause to be set on fire. Oh, I see. There are a few words like that where in can either mean not something, or it can either mean like to become something. I see. Like inflamed, yeah. Inflammable. You're right. Indeed, they've ruined the word. They've ruined the word. I can't think of any examples, but I have seen a bunch of examples that are like that, where they've just kind of, the word has been all mixed up, and there's probably a name for this where what I think you've heard of, like Torpenhow Hill or something. I think it's called, where Tor means hill, Pen means hill, How means hill, and Hill means hill. And it's called, originally it would have been called Tor or something, meaning hill, and then people forgot what the word Tor means, and it was just called where's that? That's Tor, and then what is Tor? Tor is a hill, but at that time they called a hill was called Pen or something. So then they called it's Tor Pen, meaning Tor Hill. But then people forgot what pen means, and they said, where's that? That's Torpen. And it's like, what's Torpen? It's like, oh, that's Torpenhow. It's like, and How means hill, so that's Torpenhow. And then people forgot what How means, and then they said, "What's that? It's Torpenhow. And Torpenhow is a hill. It's Torpenhow Hill." And this will probably go on forever. We'll get the whatever whatever next language comes into this place will find that place, and then they'll say, "What's that? That's Toppenhau Hill," and it will just go on forever. Like ATM machine. Like ATM no longer stands for automated teller machine. ATM is a word. It's just a word. It just means it's ATM, and it's an ATM machine. And you know, and if you want to prevent this kind of stuff from happening, you got to teach people language. You got to teach people how to, what ATM means. And there was another. What was the other one? It was like VTuber related, I think. I can't remember. I can't remember. Hello, Raymond Dow or Raymond Dow. Hello, hello. Can't remember. It was like ATM machine, like a automated teller machine. But it was something like that. But it was in the context of VTubing, I think. I can't remember what it was, but it was a such silly nonsense. Such silly nonsense. Auf Wiedersehen. Have we got a Dia? Dia T. T. U. That's an U. I almost wrote Sigma. Was it like people saying Sun VT out loud? Oh, what? I thought about having VT when I made my account. I thought, no, I can't do that. What was it? What was it? What does PDF stand for? I'm gonna Google what PDF stands for. If the F means file, then we've got another example. No, it means format. Never mind. You can indeed have a portable document format file. Can you? Or is a format also a file? You have a file format? I don't know. Maybe. PDF format, indeed. File and format are different. I see. Oh yeah, I've got you're a computer whiz now, Slusher. You know all the ancient magic of the computer. A little bit. How you know of L Colonc, right? L colon Q. How many years will it take before you can understand anything of what he's saying? Yeah, I have no idea. I go there, and I have no idea what he's talking about. They trick sand into thinking. I love how I love the comparisons of like the framing of computers as magic, because it's you're literally tricking sand into thinking. It's so crazy. Rename. Alright, NOKS. Oh no, I folded my paper. That's no good. Photo. How close are we to the end? Oh, we're still nowhere near the end. My goodness. Photo Megalon. Megalodendron. I wonder. So I said I had in my mind. That I need to get to chapter 7 or so before I can start just sort of reading this without the need to manually write it down. The reason why I write it down, let me just write this word. Cafudeum. There we go. The reason why I'm sort of manually writing out this book myself. Oh, is it? Oh, is it? Oh, is it? Oh, is it loud? I say. Oh, yes. I guess I turned it up because it was quiet. It was loud. It was quiet earlier, but I guess it's loud now. But I've probably turned it down too much now. But what was I gonna say? The reason why I started running it down is because in the beginning it's really difficult. You know, the first sentence of this, which you're supposed to be able to just read on its own without any help, is really difficult. In fact, let me write down page 43 here because and then go back to page 1. I'll show you the first page here. Let me go find it. Here we go. You should be able to solve this. You know, now you can't read the Greek alphabet properly, but I'll read it for you, and allegedly you should be able to understand this. Now there's a little help beforehand. You've got a picture of a map here. Where you have I Athene, and then here you have an arrow pointing to a man that says Ho Dikaiopolis. And then a sentence here which you'll probably have no idea what it means, but it says Ho Dikaiopolis ukentes Athenes ala entes agros oike. Okay, makes sense, right? Makes sense. You getting it? You following? Okay, here we go. We've also got one. We've got the. You can't. Let me. I can actually show it at the moment. Where's my thing? Okay. Here we've got Atheneos, Athene, Estin Oike. And then here we've got some picture. Agros, Athene. Athene. Are you getting it right? You're following? And then Mikros, Macros. Mikros, Macros. You're getting it? Makes sense, right? And then this here, whatever this drawing is, means ho kleros. Okay, that's all the information you get. Okay, and now you have to get this. Okay, Dikaiopolis Athenios estin oikedi or Dikaiopolis ukentes Athenes ala entois agros autogros gad estin Georgai ton kleron kaipone entois agros. Kalepos di estin norbios, or gar kleros, esti mikros, macros di oponos. There you go. That's your introduction. You've got it right. You understood everything, right? Made perfect sense, right? You know, it's you got it right. You're following. Yeah, it took me ages to figure out what this sentence means. I'll tell you what this sentence means. It means Dikaiopolis. This is the guy's name. This is our friendly, gentle introduction to Greek here. Where what should we call our main character? Who for people who they can't speak the language, they can barely even read the alphabet. What should we call him? Something simple like Tom or Fred. Something simple. No. Let's call him Dikaiopolis. How many syllables is that? That's his name. Dikaiopolis. Okay. Atheneos estin. He's an Athenian. Atheneos estin. He is an Athenian. Oike di or Dikaiopolis uk entes Athenes. Oike means lives, where he lives, his home. I mean, you won't be reading Tom a lot in Greek. Perhaps not. There was who's an give me Ai. That's Ajax. You know, there we go. We could have just called him Ajax. You know, which is pronounced like Ai. You know, whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's simple. That would have been so much easier. Scholasticos. Yeah. We got Dikaiopoulos and Scholasticos is crazy. Anyway. Ook entes. Ook means not. He does not live in Athens. In Athens. He does not live in Athens. Allah, but entois agros. He lives in the farms. Ortogros garistin, for he is a farmer. Georgoi. Hang on, Ortogros? I've actually forgotten whether okay, Georgai also means farmer, or Ortogros. I think these both mean farmer. Actually, I think we've got two words for farmer here, or maybe I'm screwing up. But the Georgai unton kleron, field, kai pone entois agros, the fields and the farm, and kalepos diestin obios, difficult is the life. O kleros. I'm forgetting what kleros means, actually. Kleros est... Oh, farm. The field, the farm. Kleros estin mikros, macros dioponos. Small is the farm, big is the work. There's way too much going on here. This is unbelievable. This is unfair. Let me show you something far easier. Yeah, let me get the Latin one. Somewhere around here. Am I on screen? I'm on screen. Here we go. Now, there should be a map here somewhere. There's a map missing. There's a map of Europe missing from this for some reason. But imagine a map of Europe, and all the words are in ancient Roman words, but that you'll kind of figure out what they mean. And I hate this book. I hate this page. So I'm gonna read a little bit of this, and I'm gonna quickly go off because I hate it. I'm sick of hearing it. But Roma in Italia est. You getting it? Rome is in Italy. Wow. That's as easy as apple on table. Italy, Italia in Europa est. Italy is in Europe. Greca, Greece, in Europa est. Italia et Greca in Europa sunt. Here we go. We got est and sunt. It's like is and are, and then et obviously means and. It just makes so much sense. Hispania quoque in Europa est. Hispania, Spain, is also in Europe. Hispania et Italia et Greca in Europa sunt. Isn't Sia spoken as Shia? Sia? Gracia? Oh, you mean like Gracia? Like et in French? In ancient Roman, it's all K's. All the C's are K's. It's Kaiser instead of Caesar. It's Kylum instead of Chilum, and Kikero and stuff like that. But pronunciation's not actually important. Like if you can read it, judicio. Yeah. Instead of judicio. Probably where we could adjudicate, more Latin-esque. Aegyptus in Europa non est. Wow, it's like Egypt, that's not in Europe. Aegyptus, it's Egypt, in Africa est. And it's so easy. Wow, you don't need to know any Latin to know this, but here it is. This is actually Latin. And you get it. That's how it should be. Not this madness. Not Dikaiopoulos, Athenios, Estinoi, Kedio, Dikaiopoulos, it's madness. Also, there is a lot of W sounds, at least W sounding to Spanish speaks. Yeah, a lot of the, like there's no V, it's all W. It's not Veni Vidi Vici, it's Weni Vidi Wiki, which sounds terrible, but it is what it is. I think J, there's no J either. J is written as I, but it's pronounced, if it's at the start of the letter, it's like pronounced as Y, like a U. So it's not Julius Caesar, it's Julius Kaiser. Very catgirl. It's literally catgirl words. Anyway, I wrote down 43 here so I can remember where that was. There it is. But it's... And so I believe the archaeological explanation of how we know how these words are spelled is because people misspell things often. You know, there's no dictionaries in the ancient world. Most of it's verbal, and so there's a lot of typos. And by collecting together these typos, you can figure out how people are pronouncing things. Because if people misspell things in consistent ways, it indicates that while they're all spelt differently, there's a consistent pronunciation of them. And I believe that's how we know how they pronounced things in the ancient world. However, that only tells us somewhat of it. We don't know how fast they spoke. We don't know sort of what kind of tone they spoke with. It's not clear, were they speaking like, were they speaking like that, or were they speaking like it could be anything, like that's not too clear. I think it's probably most likely that that the Romans probably speak like modern Italians, and the Greeks probably speak like modern Greeks. That's my guess, but just with slightly different pronunciations, but probably the same kind of mood, the same kind of vibe. Like that wouldn't radically change. There is a problem. There is a problem with a lot of the sort of the modern speakers of both Greek and Latin is that they part of it is because everyone's an amateur in it, but part of it I think is they speak. Everyone speaks like an English learning video. You know what I mean? Like the English learning video of a guy walks into a bakery and he's like this is bread in bakery. The baker works in the bakery. The baker makes bread. Yeah, because they're trying to get you to understand it. But what happens is these people who are trying to learn ancient Greek and Latin, they just speak exclusively like this, and even when you don't understand what they're saying, it sounds ridiculous. It sounds like they're crazy people. Where a natural speaker, they speak like me. They speak quickly and casually, and it's if only we had Marco Terentio, Varun di Lingua Latina. Dude had everything we now need to understand what they were saying. Dude had everything we now need to understand what they were saying. I'm guessing this is a lost book. Some Italian guy who had a book on the Latin language, which I'm guessing is now lost. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. There's the Wikipedia list of lost literary works is brutal. It's a miserable thing. I think that there's more things lost than not lost. I think there's some people, it's you think of these ancient, I forget which one, it was an ancient Greek, it was Euripides or something, some ancient Greek playwright. And it was we have 30 works of his surviving out of 400. It's crazy. And then there's people where it's some ancient famous people. It's nothing of his survives. I think what's his name? Very famous. Begins with a P. He thinks all is one. The philosopher that thinks all is one. I think begins with a P. Parmenides. That's it. Parmenides. And we have about 4 lines of his works that survive. About 4 lines remain out of, what I assumed was a lifetime of literary works. And there's just nothing. It's just all gone. There was an ancient Roman guy who wrote an ancient Roman who wrote a Latin translation of the Odyssey. They called it the Odyssea, I think. It doesn't survive. I think there's 3 or 4 lines that survive. It's just gone. It's all gone. It's crazy. Cafezean, Cafudean. Gemusia. I didn't recognize that one. And since that's such a distinct word, I'll leave it at that, so it'll be easy to find next time. No, there's no N there, crap. Give me zoom in. Okay. I think I have it's like 300 pages of yeah. And then like I don't even think it's 3 pages. I don't even think it's 3 pages. Or if they are, the text is really big. It's tiny. It's virtually nothing. It's miserable. And you mentioned, it's like 200, 300 pages of introduction and study and stuff, and I'm sure there's a lot of like archaeological and historical stuff of interest there. But when you think about what's the most valuable thing here, it's probably the 3 pages of original Greek translation next to it. It's that's it. Like all those 300 pages of study, they're all talking about that tiny fragment. And I'm sure they probably have a little bit extra, like where they found the fragment and things people have said about the fragments and stuff like that. But the 3 fragments, that's it. That's it. That's the whole thing. You can read that, and you're basically on par with the scholars. You can read that and be like, okay, I'm I've read everything that is extant of Parmenides. Or what people said about the parts we're now missing. Yeah. Like an ancient author speaks about it, and that gives an idea of what it's about. But those are often like few and far between. And it's just this is what I'm always saying about like reading as close to possible as the original text. Because if you read the original thing, like you've got it. I've been and I had a really tough time on Monday. I was super tired, so I didn't actually succeed at all. But I've been reading through Aristotle, and it's like, you can just read it. You can just read Aristotle for yourself. And then you can make your own mind up about it. You have the original thoughts, in your mind. You don't have to go through a middleman of someone commentating on it. It gives you. I don't say like power. It doesn't give you like a lot of power, but it's a good thing to do. It's like we read Varron's Theory of Religion through St. Augustine's City of God. I'm not familiar with Varron's Theory of Religion, but speaking of Christianity, like I've read the Bible. It's like, okay, that's it. I've read the Bible, and unfortunately, it doesn't actually really like help at all. Like Catholicism doesn't really follow the Bible at all in like any way at all. It's kind of totally its own thing. With its own like history and traditions and stuff that aren't in the Bible. Like you don't get the what's it called? Like there's no mention of the Rosary in the Bible. It's not in the Bible. It's purely like a Catholic invention, or it's probably older than the Catholics, but like and then just like all the various like the structures and like it's like it's not in there. Like there's no the Catholic theology and stuff is not in the Bible. So if you want to learn about that, I don't know. Like I learned more about Christianity through reading Plato than reading the Bible. But that being said, I've read the Bible. And so now I can look at the Christians, I can look at the Catholics, and I can confidently say it's like you're not following the Bible. None of these things are in the Bible. The Rosary is nonsense. It's not in the Bible. Well, there's a bit of bias here, I suppose. I'm English, you see. We're a Protestant nation, a pretty aggressively Protestant nation, and we don't, so we believe in the sola scriptura. I'm not really a Christian myself, but that's just the culture I was raised in, and it seems to make a lot of sense to me. Look, the Bible is all you've got. Who are you going to trust? You're going to trust this thing which even the Catholics agree is the sole work of God, or are you going to the sole writing? There is no other book that is blessed in the same way as the Bible. It is the definitive authority on Christianity. But are you going to believe that, or are you going to believe some dude, some pope from however long ago? In the same way. I mean, it's the Bible. Imagine you were given a lightning bolt or something. You had to destroy one thing. You can either destroy the Bible or you can destroy the Pope. Of whatever, throughout all of history. Obviously you're going to destroy the Pope. The Bible's clearly far more significant. So much so that nothing stands in comparison to it. If you want to be a Christian, that is, right? Right. It even says in the Bible that not everything that Jesus said and did was written. Well, okay, maybe, but I don't know. Like, like I don't think you can put any weight on humans. I feel like what humans say and do is a load of nonsense. Prayer beans are ancient. Christianity is more than the Bible. The idea of the Bible's only for is way more modern. Mostly Protestant. Yeah, it is a Protestant way of thinking. It's like, no, I changed the rules. No, the Bible's the only thing that matters. So even though that's not in the Bible, you're falling into a loop. I don't know. I mean, it's so to me, it's so obvious that so many of these like medieval like popes and stuff are kind of charlatans. Like they're like I don't think that God actually gave them any wisdom. I think they're basically just kings. They're just kings, and they had the authority and told, yep, God said I can do it. Here we go. Going with the Protestantism. King Henry the sixth or seventh, I forget which, or the eighth. I think it's King Henry the eighth. He gets rid of Catholicism in England and makes it like a Protestant nation, and he becomes himself the head of the Church of England. And we kind of recognise this as the Church of England, and the king is like, he's the defender of the faith or something. Now, come on now. Look, I'm English, okay? I could be biased here and say, oh yeah, he's clearly chosen by God. He's obviously not. The Catholics wouldn't let him divorce his wife, so he just got rid of the church. He's obviously a charlatan. Like he's just using it for his own power. You're trying to discredit the disciples of disciples from 130 AD. Yeah, I probably am. Yeah, I kind of am. I just. My point. I got kind of distracted there. My point is that it's worth reading the Bible if you're a Christian. I think you'd be mad not to read the Bible. He wants to change the 50-year-old for 2 of 25. I don't actually know the ages of those wives. I don't actually know, but he had 6 wives. It's just wild. What a crazy man. But I don't know. It's just it's a load of bunk to me, in my opinion. The whole thing is so obviously like even if you accept the divinity of like God and Jesus and stuff, it's so obvious that basically every single religious sect of Christianity is a load of bunk. Come on now. It's so obvious. Like you can't possibly defend the madness of like any sect. They're all like so far removed from Jesus and God. Didn't he explode when he died? I have no idea actually. KGV has been modified to reduce any possibilities of anti. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. That, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Someone translates it, and they're gonna corrupt it. I don't know. It's missing like half of the books. It's not missing half the books now. I've read some of the extant books. They're pretty good, but they don't fundamentally change anything. They don't make meaningful change. Where's my biscuits? Where's my plates? Plates? And I've got custard creams today. Custard creams. And I've bought them from a cheaper store, and they're so poorly packaged in the packaging that they've all broken in the packaging. It's dreadful. They've all fallen apart. And one thing I want to know that I'm always curious about the I don't know what you call it, the transition of societies from more primitive customs to more modern civilized customs. Things like how they go from animal sacrifice to not animal sacrifice because they change their mind and they start seeing animal sacrifice as barbaric. And I'm interested to see how this happens. In the Bible, they have animal sacrifice, and I don't see a clear point where they don't really talk about it. It just kind of vanishes away in the Bible. There's no clear point where they sort of stand up and say, we were sacrificing animals before, we're going to stop doing that now. It just kind of vanishes away. But also, the Pope is a king. That's why they have a triple crown: Father of Kings, Supreme Authority over all of the world, Universal Vicar of the... Yeah. But it's like, the Pope means father. And surely the Bible says not to call anyone father but God. But then again, depending on what word they're using for father there, it might be a different kind of father. Who knows? But with the animal sacrifice thing, when does it go away? My guess, my hunch, is that it goes away during the Babylonian captivity. Or potato. My guess is that animal sacrifice goes away during the Babylonian captivity, not because of any good reason for it, but because it was just inconvenient. That they were sacrificing cows and stuff. That's kind of expensive. If you're like a slave, your entire thing as a slave, that's probably not very convenient. So they just kind of stopped doing it. Sacrifice will still be known by those following the religion of the ancients. My point is, in the Bible, it's the ancient the books of Moses and stuff, the laws of Moses, they prescribe animal sacrifice. It's very clearly the core of the religion. As are pretty much all ancient religions. But it vanishes at some point. By the time you get to the New Testament, it's gone. It's gone. It has not a hint of anything. Now, I mean, of course, Jesus is a sacrifice, but it's a bit different. It's a bit different. Jesus doesn't go around saying we've got to sacrifice cows. That's gone at this point. You're missing the exegesis. Is that a book? All right, let's have a look. Exegesis. Critical explanation. No, it's because I haven't read the explanation of it then. But but as far as I can see, it's not done. It's not done. They gave up. They gave up on animal sacrifice, and it was probably around the time that the Romans at that time. I'm pretty sure they were still doing animal sacrifice, but the newfound Christians weren't. It wasn't a thing. That in fact it was so much not a thing that they couldn't even use the temples. They couldn't even use the ancient Roman temples because they just weren't fit for purpose. Their whole religion had changed. It stopped being about sacrifice and started being about sermons and gatherings and stuff like that. For Catholics and Christians, the one true sacrifice already took place on the cross. No, not human. I guess it's a different kind of sacrifice. I think same sacrifice is present received with the consecrated. The whatever it's called. The Eucharist. I think that's different. Like it is a sacrifice, but it's not the same. It's not the same. Like the ancient sacrifice is like it's an exchange. You're like paying God. You have to sacrifice this thing, and he'll bring forth rain or something. It's you have to. It's a frequent thing. Like it's not about removing your sin. It's ancient animal sacrifice. It's pretty much all ancient customs. Ancient groups have. They've all got animal sacrifice, but it just kind of vanishes. Or okay, let's say this is how it changes in the New Testament then, with the one true sacrifice. He doesn't mention it like that. It's just I can't actually remember what he says word for word actually. Does he use the word sacrifice? Does Jesus mention that he is a sacrifice, or is he just being killed? Does he tell people that he is sacrificed for the sins of mankind? Or is that just the interpretation of it? I can't actually remember. Yeah, I'm not denying that that is a sort of sacrifice. It's got the same kind of vibe as it, but they're not. What happened to the cows? what happened to the cows and whatever other animals they I think it was like bulls or something. I forget whatever animals they sacrificed, but they had a list. They had a very specific list and a very specific manner in which it had to be done. What happened to that? It clearly just vanished at some point, probably because it was inconvenient for them to do so. But anyway, I'm getting distracted again. What I meant to say is that it's interesting because it probably, even though it probably disappeared out of inconvenience, it probably stayed away because the culture advanced to the point where they didn't actually want to be sacrificing cows anymore. That's that's primitive. It's barbaric. A big part of why Christianity usurped paganism, in my opinion, is that it is a more sophisticated religion. Paganism it's almost close to like totemism. Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, I believe it's 70 AD. It's about around reasonable amount of time. I believe that. When the Pharisees criticized him for eating with tax collectors and sinners, he says, "Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners." But it's interesting because, and I think I need to find more examples of this. I really need to get around to digging up more examples of this because the only other example I can think of is the story of Iphigenia, and I'm a bit of a broken record here. You've probably heard me make this around a million times. There's the mythological story of Iphigenia, the daughter of Agamemnon, and she is sacrificed to Artemis so that they can get favourable winds to go and invade Troy. And in some forms of the story, some older forms of the story, that's just the story. Iphigenia is sacrificed to Artemis and blah blah blah. But in a more modern, but still ancient Greek form of the story, she's replaced with a deer. And to me, what this says to me is that they were telling this story, that the ancient Greeks were telling this story, but at some point it became taboo to sacrifice humans. That became seen as icky and barbaric. So they changed it. They just changed the story to be more socially acceptable. Now, it's not a human sacrifice, it's an animal sacrifice. And had the Greeks survived any longer, they probably would have got rid of the animal as well. And then there just wouldn't be a sacrifice. Maybe, in a way, the oddity of the sacrifice of Jesus, it's not at all like a human sacrifice as you would expect it. He's not being put on the altar. He's not have his throat slit. There's not people chanting and singing around him. It's almost like what's the word for it? It's like I don't know what the word for it. It's like a representation of a sacrifice. It's not actually a sacrifice. It's symbolic. It's a symbolic sacrifice. You know what I mean? Like he's just executed kind of normally, and it's different. Furthermore, many sects and heresies form. Some retain sacrifices. Much of the church was basically about killing each other on who is right. Yeah. The whole thing's like I need to really get one of these days. I'll get around to learn like medieval history and stuff. But it's it's such a miserable time in history, it's such a miserable time. Unless you're really into misery, it's hard to read. It's like millions of people starving to death, people being invaded on all sides, and what's the king doing? He's arguing over whether God is one or many. Complete madness. But what was I saying? But yeah, it's really. I think it's a very interesting thing because the reason why I find it interesting is because there's mechanisms involved in doing it. How do you change your customs to adapt to the modern world? When I see like neo pagans, I see them as being totally misguided. Like they'll go around drinking in and out of their drinking horns. You know what I mean? Those kinds of people. Why are they drinking out of a drinking horn? What's the point of that? They do it because, well, that's kind of what the pagans did, right? But the pagans were like 2,000 years ago. They probably drank out of drinking horns because the horn was abundant and it works as a drinking horn. It was easier to get a horn than it was to get a cup, to make a cup. That's one reason. But it is more deeper than that. A horn may come from a ferocious animal that you have slain. This is just my theory. It may come from a ferocious animal that you've slain, and so in that way, drinking out of it is like it's a victory cup, and that is a pretty common thing. There's a parallel there. There's a pretty common thing in like ancient societies to have cups, victory trophies, which are used as cups. The Greeks had their sports trophies, which were cups. I forget which group it was. I think it was like the Mexicans or something. They would cut people's skulls off and use their skulls, the top part of their skulls, as cups, because it was a trophy. It wasn't just a skull they found; it was specifically a skull of someone they killed. It being a trophy is important. You drink out of trophies for whatever reason. And so, if you go on Amazon and you buy a pagan drinking cup, you've missed the point completely. Not only is it more expensive, so you've defeated the point of it being a convenient cup, but it's also not a trophy, so you've lost all reason for it. And this is the problem with a lot of pagans, is they just sort of copy this shallow surface, but they fail to realise how it would adapt. The modern equivalent of drinking out of a trophy would probably be something like what's it called? You win a sports competition, you win the cup, and you drink out of the cup. That's basically the same kind of thing, right? But you can go deeper than this. Why are they drinking out of victory trophies? That in itself it's kind of primitive, don't you think? This sort of it's kind of monkey, it's kind of caveman. There's an underlying like culture behind like what causes you to feel a desire to have this trophy and whatever drinking out of it means. Why must you drink out of a trophy? What's the reason behind that? Also, there were lots of mixing of old gods and modern religions at the time, like what Marciano Capella and his De Nuptiis Philogly at Mercury, that is kind of a way of making the ancient religion of the gods pagan and competitive with Christianity and other religions. There's a difficulty here. There's a difficulty. The biggest, in my opinion, the biggest difficulty of paganism and frankly, the biggest part of paganism is the polytheism part of it. People like having multiple gods when they become pagans. They kind of like that. It's neat. It's different from Christianity, which just has their one god. But I think it can be argued that polytheism in itself is kind of primitive. For example, you see the what? Let me try and think. Two things that are actually the same. I don't know the names of them. Is it the morning star and the evening star? It's two stars which are actually the same, but for much of history were mistaken to be two different stars, or maybe they were planets. I'm not sure. And this is a sort of polytheism, right? You have two different divine entities for two different things. And what monotheism does is the realization that actually they are the same star. At least that's one way of viewing it, I think. Let's say like thunder and lightning. There's probably some religions that have thunder and lightning as two different gods. As the god of thunder and probably the god of lightning, and they may be two different gods. I don't know if there are actually, but you could. And a lot of But of course, they're actually one and the same thing. And so when you become more intelligent, you just more wise, perhaps, or something. I don't know. As a culture, you realize that these are one thing, and the logical conclusion of this is eventually everything becomes one thing. This all encompassing, one. And that's the monotheistic God. He creates everything, governs everything, knows everything. It's all this one perfect thing, and it seems primitive to say, oh, there's a god of rain, a god of thunder, a god of the sun. It's like you can pile them all into one as the god of the universe. And so, looking at it that kind of way, you can't go back. You can't go back. You can't say, I'm going to willingly be an idiot. I've just drank the last of my water, actually. I was just drinking as we was talking. The salvation offered by Christianity is very appealing to people, as pagan religion steeps in fatalism and determinism. Oh yeah, that too. The system held sway over men and limited the power of gods themselves, who could neither break its decrees nor prevent the death of those whom... This system held sway over men and limited the power of the gods themselves, who could neither break its decrees nor prevent the death of those whom fate designated. This system, the sentence seems to say you're saying about Christianity, but to me that describes paganism. One thing I do like about paganism is that when you have... sorry, I'm knocking stuff. When you have multiple gods, no one god is all powerful. Even Zeus, the king of gods, is not all powerful. Even he is controlled. Yeah, he's controlled by the fates, and there are anecdotes of all the gods together being able to overpower Zeus. And what this does is that, imagine you decide to worship some small little household god. That god can't do much to you. That god probably can't kill you. Maybe that god can make your house set on fire or something at most, but it's not like Zeus. A thunderbolt is not going to come down and strike you because you didn't sacrifice to the household gods. The little small Lares, the small spirits. Those gods are weaker. And this makes it, I don't know, like emotionally, as a follower of these gods, it's hard to become a lunatic if you're following the household gods. If someone comes into your house and they and they say something mean about your household gods, maybe you'll slap them or something. You see, you've disrespected the household gods, and you'll slap them, but you're not going to kill the whole family. You're not going to go to war with their whole country because they disrespected the household gods. It's not that big a deal. Let's say you yourself, you're walking through your house and you forgot to pay respects to the household gods. Should you kill your whole family because you've given such an insult to the household gods? No. When you make your gods more and more powerful, when you pull all the gods into one, this ultimate god of the universe itself, to worship such a god demands insanity. You have to drive yourself completely mad to worship this god, to the point where, if you so much as think incorrectly about that, you've so much as slighted it in the most small of ways. You are such a small being in comparison to it that to pay your apologies to it, you'd have to kill your whole society or something. You'd have to go completely crazy. This is a big downside to the monotheistic way of going about it. The god is too powerful that it drives its followers insane. There's a Lucianic dialogue where human character speaks of Zeus, asking about destiny and the god's power. Zeus becomes angry and threatens to eradicate him with his lightning bolt. The human says, "Is that my destiny? Did the fates say you would annihilate me with a lightning bolt?" Zeus thinks and says no. The human then mocks him, knowing Zeus is powerless against him. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm guessing there's clearly a bit of a deliberate paradox there. There's a deliberate paradox there, I suppose. You've deliberately but because obviously Zeus probably could. It implies Zeus has no free will, but it's like a comedic twist. But yeah, it is it's like. It makes it so. I mean, you wouldn't want to mock Zeus, of course, as an ancient Greek. You would, Zeus would probably kill you, but you would it weakens the gods in a good way, that lets people be sane about worshipping these gods. You know, you do, and I think when you, and that is a positive of what could you view? It's like it's like, I don't know, there's like, you could probably view it as like an economic sort of way, you know, like having a monotheism. It's like a monopoly, you know. You know, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. When you have multiple gods, there's more balance. Things are more balanced. But that's one positive. But then there's still, you know, the philosophical implications of it. You know, it's kind of silly to have a god of things which a monotheistic god can better explain. You know, the sort of the god of the universe controlling all of nature makes a lot more sense than a god of rain and a god of grass and a god of trees and a god of, you know, chickens and stuff like that. Come on now, you can't go backwards. You can't be willingly ignorant of reality. You know, we've largely eradicated the needs for gods of the weather and stuff like that. We can explain these in mechanical terms, but how do we explain mechanical things themselves, the mechanism of the universe of cause and effects? We still don't have a good explanation for that. There's still a room for God. I'm an atheist myself, so I think that there's probably a non-divine explanation to it, but we remain without the answer. There could very well be some divine, all-powerful God that created the universe and governs everything, but the way that it works is, it works in, as far as we're concerned, a purely mechanical way. But it is, I don't know, you know, it's the, you know, that kind of thing. It's possible, I think, you know, or at the very least, it's not improvable at the moment, or disprovable rather. It's not disprovable. You know, but you've got to get rid of the drinking horns. And to get rid of the drinking horns, you have to understand the pagan religion at its essence. You have to understand its essence, its true nature, and then you have to understand how religions adapt naturally. How does a religion go from human and animal sacrifice? How does it go from that to whatever the modern day is? What's the mechanism for it? What's the way it changes? How does it adapt? And then take your ancient religion that you're with your drinking horns and put it in those shoes. Put it in those same shoes, and theoretically imagine it not having been wiped out, but instead it's stuck around for 2,000 years. It goes through all the Middle Ages and the Industrial Revolution and all that kind of stuff, and it reaches the modern day with our particle accelerators and stuff. What does it look like? In what shape does it survive and adapt? And that will be your pagan religion, in its essence, adapted to the modern day. Something you could more reasonably follow than drinking horns and dancing around Stonehenge. That's my theory, I think. In Gustavo Bueno's theory of religions, the types of religions are primary religions, the deities, animals, or primitive religions. Secondary religions, the anthropomorphization of the gods of lightning, etc. And then the tertiary religion, the highest form of conceptualization of the divine nature, the all. Yeah, exactly. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The ancient religions, that's like, you know, totemism and stuff. This is where you you know, they worship, you know, usually animals. They usually worship animals, and then at some point as it becomes more advanced, the worship of animals becomes the worship of these, you know, these gods, or, you know, and they become more human-like, and then they worship more, you know, things like that, and then eventually they become, yeah, this more metaphysical sort of god. I'm an atheist who sympathises theism in many aspects as well. Here's one argument that could be strongly in favour of theism. How natural is it to humanity? As far as I know, we don't have any examples of animals practicing religion, but we're quite a bit far from animals, even in prehistoric times. Even if you were to go, like, how old is religion in humanity? How far do we have to go back to the point where we start seeing humans engage in ideas of the supernatural? One thing we do, and you can find this, I don't know how far back this goes, whether it's hundreds, thousands of years or millions of years, but we can find examples of humans burying their dead, or taking care of like their ancestors' skulls and stuff, and putting them in positions of reverence. There's clearly some. It's not just a dead body. An animal leaves the dead body. An animal does not keep the dead body of its father or whatever. It moves on. It's an animal. But humans, we have this reverence for the dead, and I think that this is inherently a belief that there is something beyond being dead, that maybe it lives on, or its memory must be remembered. There's something supernatural about it. It's not just it's a dead body, throw it away. These ideas are interesting, so I think they're very interesting. But so let's say that you go back, I don't know, maybe millions of years. If it is the case that we have been practicing religion in some super primitive form for millions of years, to the point where we're humans, but we're not quite, we're not like totally modern civilized humans yet. We're still kind of at the point where we're kind of acting on instinct. We're doing things that come naturally to us. What I mean to say is, if religion is natural to us, then we must follow it, because if you oppose your natural instincts, you go insane. All of society, is built to conveniently work around our natural instincts. We have to, some of them are more than just instincts, but biological necessities. Like, we have to eat, and we have to shit. These things are ugly, so we hide them. We find all our animal instincts to be ugly, so we hide them. This is the whole invention of table manners. Imagine a wolf. Imagine a pack of wolves around a deer, and they're eating the deer and ripping it apart and stuff. It's very gruesome. But that's just eating. It's just eating. So when we get these humans and we make this society, and we want it to be all nice and prim and proper and not animalistic, but we still have to eat. We'll die if we don't eat. So we have to. So what do? We put on nice clothes, and we sit at a table. We sit upright, and we use a fork and 3 spoons and all this, and we eat with our mouth closed. We're hiding. We're disguising the fact that we're just eating. You sound confident there, Raymond Dab, but it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell, I think, whether ethics really apply to humans, or okay, maybe they don't apply to like the rest of the animals, but how far back in human history, going back even long into prehistory, how far back do you have to go before those things are there? Because I think you can go back really far. And the further you go back, the more important it becomes to keep those things and not change them and reject them, because they're deep rooted. They're deep rooted. But what was I saying? Something about So we've got these. Let's say if it is in the case that some sort of religious belief or some kind of supernatural, some sort of spirituality, whatever it is, something of that nature, is deep rooted in us, to the point that if we reject it, or we can't function without it. I think many things appeared with the invention of clothes. Yeah, there's another one. Why do clothes exist? Now one of it is to protect us. Of course, you're walking around, brambles and thorns and stuff. You don't want to get stabbed. You don't want bugs biting you and stuff. Clothes help that. That's probably why they first appear, but this is an affliction that afflicts many animals. But are we just more intelligent? Are clothes a tool? Did we make clothes as a tool to present? That's maybe, but it's obviously more than that. Very early on, clothes become a status symbol. I think even there's even some animals have been shown to wear clothes purely for fashion reason. There was a thing about orcas wearing salmon on their head or something like that, but I don't know. It's a weird thing, or monkeys putting grass in their bums. It's a fashion thing, apparently. I don't know, but but there's something. It's like this emergence of what we would call, civilized sort of behavior. It's different from things humans do that are very different from animals, and they appear very early on in some ways. This reverence of the dead and wearing clothes, and it's so old that they write in the Bible. They write this kind of stuff in the Bible, and these mythological tales of the you think like the Garden of Eden. They get kicked out of the Garden of Eden, and then they become ashamed, and they start wearing clothes. It's like they go from animal to human. Like what happened? What is it there? And what significance does it hold for us? How important is it to us? Is it the kind of thing where if we get rid of it, or if we try to suppress it, that we go insane? I think in the same way that if we, which is a sign of a high cognitive ability. Yeah, that's probably a good explanation. It's probably a high, it's intelligence, but then intelligence is also part of our nature. It's a thing we have to do. We have to do it. It's not necessarily a realization of any kind of truth. It's like an instinct. It's a part of our, like, all of our personalities or something. I'm talking kind of nonsense here, but I think it's possible that religion is something that we have to do, that we have to do, and if we don't do it, we go insane. Animals, such as birds and insects, possess complex behaviours and group balances necessary for survival, such as food sharing within a group. However, one could argue that these are natural or ethological balance, not moral norms. Well, I think the way you word that, it seems to me that the difference is whether they're doing it for reasons they understand, or whether they're just doing it because they feel like doing it. And does that actually mean anything? You can logically understand why you're doing something, but that doesn't mean you're doing it for logical reasons. You may have a compulsion to do it. It may be the case that a lot of our morals, they're just natural. They're natural, but we've given them logical forms, or logical explanations rather. We've justified them, but it may be that they were natural. Like a spider. I forget which kind of spider. There's a spider which warms that makes like a present. It makes a present for the female spider as a gift to show its abilities, to show its genetics, I suppose. And if the gift is good, the female spider will mate with the male spider. And if this spider was super intelligent and formed a whole society like humans, it would probably have a whole institution about this. Like, oh yes, you've got to make your gift for the spider, for the nice girl, and they'll probably explain, oh yes, it's got to be enough. But really, it's a natural thing. It came long before the explanation of it. Moral and ethical rules require conceptual deliberation, the balancing of duties, the ability to consciously transgress the norm, just like a young child who has not yet developed an adult normative judgment. Therefore, they cannot be judged by moral categories nor attributed to ethical responsibility. This sounds more what do you call it, structured than what I'm thinking of. It sounds more like something a philosopher writes. But is it true? Is it true? How do we mustn't get lost in semantics. Especially because my semantics are so sloppy. I desperately rely that people get what I mean. But I do really fair. But I think that with the religion thing, in modern society, we've largely abandoned religion, and immediately we immediately see a lot of what religion did. The structural order and meaning in people's lives, and moral control, and it did all these things. And it's a bit fedora tipping to look at religion that way, but that is reality. That is what it does. That may not be its reason for existence, but that is what it does. It does give a lot of moral, it controls society. Why is it like this? Why is religion the thing that controls society? And maybe the reason why religion controls society is perhaps religion has always been at the center of society. Perhaps it comes from even before it was religion itself. Perhaps there's this notion of that there is an order to society, even going back to like monkey times, that we believe and we cannot transgress because there will be terrible consequences to it, and you just feel it. And then but then once you consciously reject religion, you also reject those natural tendencies to do the religious things, and then society falls apart. And it may also not be possible to reliably conceive of all the various sort of social norms and laws and stuff without religion. A lot of religion does things for people that we don't realise we're doing until we've analysed it like hundreds of years later. Yeah, I'm talking about things like the myths and the stuff. We respect a myth. We follow the morals of a myth, even if we don't understand what it's even talking about. But then we understand it, once we get to like the 19th century and we start like looking into psychology and stuff, now we get it. I think that's it, rituals. There's a lot of, we do things for a ritualistic purpose. We don't understand what they're doing, but the effects they have, mentally even, they have profound and very good consequences. And if we reject the ritual because the ritual has this outer shell of being some superstitious nonsense that isn't scientifically accurate, we throw the baby out with the baby water or whatever, the bath water. Throw the baby, the bath. You know what I mean? It's also true that we say we have abandoned religion, but statistically, is that even true? Or is the fact that the majority of Japanese people say they're atheists, despite also going to temples and believing in non-physical beings as a true source? I think well, there's a lot of like, you can go to like Africa or something, and they're all Christians there, but I don't know. Like, I don't care about Africa. What I see here if I live in England myself, and when I go to England, no one here is religious. No one here is religious. It's like someone saying, I'm Christian and going to a mosque and praying to Allah. Hold on, so there was a second part. But the majority of Japanese say that despite going to temples and believing in non-physical beings, a true form of atheism. It's like saying Also, many actions have structural rituals, even if we do not intend or assume it. Yeah, I think there are. I think so too. Like, it's not necessary that you do the ritual. You just have to do the ritual. Like I think I read somewhere that's kind of that's my music stopped. Oh, it went to the next song. But if you want to manipulate someone, it's not necessary that you get them to immediately believe they're doing something, but you must condition them to do it anyway, and the belief naturally comes afterwards. I think this is a lot of what they do in military training. It doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. You must just do the thing, and eventually you'll fall in. And that's what a lot of rituals do. What do you call it? It's your fake it till you make it kind of thing, I guess, but for your mind. Marxism is basically a religion in some forms. I'll have to look into Marxism at some point. I've got a copy of Das Kapital, but it would take a long time to read, and I'd want to read several other economic textbooks before getting to it. But I have seen there is a lot of religious behaviour around Marxists. They definitely do behave in a religious capacity. Yeah, it's a fat book, but also the nuisance is that I won't actually understand any of like actual communist history through reading that book, and I know that because the reason for why communism happens, I'm pretty sure, is human nature, not communism itself. Like, the communist just takes away, like, it creates a situation in which human nature goes wrong. But the communism itself is like a different thing, and it doesn't work. That's when they say communism has never been tried, they're telling the truth, but it's still stupid. It's like it's never been tried because it can't be tried, because human nature intervenes. They blame human nature, but the communism allows the human nature. At least that's what I understand. It's like if you went out into like the local park and you put a table and you put a piece of a gold coin on the table. No, not a gold coin. A loaf of bread. You put a loaf of bread on the table, and there was one loaf of bread for every member of the town. And you told everyone to come into the town and take a loaf of bread. How long? And you'd say, oh yes, it will be perfect because everyone will get a loaf of bread if they all just take. But then they don't take, and then someone takes 2 loaf of bread, and then someone has to steal another, and the whole thing falls apart. I don't believe in utopias. Proceeds to create the greatest utopia of all. But it's like it really demands you say the meme line of the purpose of a system is what it does, and what communism does is it fails. Therefore, the purpose of communism is it just fails societies. It doesn't matter what it intended to do, it didn't work. The intention did not pan out. Are we winning? Yeah, we're actually kind of winning. We did a bit of Greek. We've been mostly ranting about religion. We've been ranting about religion. And I was sort of thinking of oh wow, lots of people have shown up. See, this is what I tell you. I've got to increase my stamina. Because people always show up like an hour or two into it, but I always end like an hour or two into it. So it's always bad. I've got to increase my stamina. But I ran to something about what was I talking about? It was a bit rambly. I don't know. Something about religion. Something about religion in the context of like how it forms. Where does it come from? Like ancient primitive cavemen. When does religion appear? Where do these notions of the supernatural appear? At what point do people start looking up and I made this. I called it communism. How's it work? Not too well. Oh, yeah, okay, let's say you make a gun. And you say that the gun, you've put medicine in the gun. You've put some antibiotics in the bullet of the gun. And so you have this intention that you're going to shoot people with this gun, and it's going to heal them because it's got medicine inside. Okay, makes sense, right? Okay, so you see a person who is a bit sick, and so you shoot him with your medicine gun, and then he dies. And you say, well, look, had the medicine worked, he would have been all right. I didn't intend to kill him. It didn't work right. Real medicine gun hasn't been tried. I think I watched some phony reality show on stream where the jury was very flattering with their votes, and I thought in that moment, it probably is so closely replicated social dynamics in political circles in my country that a silly show seemed like a ritual where people worship bureaucracy or nepotism. There's a lot of that kind of stuff. Like I don't know too much about psychology or mass psychology even, but there's a lot of like that seems to happen a lot. There's mob dynamics, or societal dynamics, because we are social animals. We have behaviour as individuals, but we also have behaviour as members of a group, and those are totally different. We have like two totally different behaviours. Even at the most basic level, the concept of shame. The concept of shame is in itself, it's a social thing. It's how we behave in a group versus in an individual. If you speak to someone one-on-one in private, you can speak in a very different way. But if you're in like a group of people, you act very differently. You feel like your guard's going up, but really what's happening, it's like your personality is changing, and this different person comes about. This person that's not you, but is the society you, and that appears. And everyone's doing that. When you're in a group, everyone's doing that. And so this totally different. There's these dynamics that are totally different from individuals. So if you want to say how does a society behave, you can't look at how individuals behave. How individuals behave is totally different. You have to look how society behaves. And and that's probably the case because we are social animals.
You know, I imagine if you got a bunch of like what's a creature that's not a social animal, like a spider. Spider's not a social animal. If you put 100 spiders, like a spider's going to act like an individual, even if it's in a group. It doesn't care about the other spiders. It's just it's always itself. But humans are not always themselves. Sometimes humans are people. They are part of society. You know, I think that's fascinating. It's fascinating. And there's another thing. It's always been like that since before we were even humans. Even monkeys have behaviour. I'm getting really Petersonian today. You know, but I thought that is it. No, I thought that was it's Aiko. I thought that was Iffy Wiffy. There's another VTuber who kind of looks like that. You know, Iffy. I think is he Iffy Wiffy? I think that's his name. I don't know. He streams sometimes. But you know, I need to. Yeah, we need to. Sharko, you need to. If I ever get any points, I need to request that you draw. You have to draw Aiko streaming. That's that'd be funny. Aiko hits go live. Why do we teach that there's no shame in sex? When you're going to have sex, what do? You check that the kids aren't around. You close the curtains. What is that shame? I can't see you doing that all to make a sandwich. Yeah, this is similar to what I was saying earlier, but like dinner, table manners. We are ashamed of eating in a way that an animal eats. We have to hide it. We have to disguise it, make it look all prim and proper. We're ashamed of messy eating. Perhaps what we could say is we're ashamed of being an animal. We're ashamed of being an animal. We see it as something, you know, and so all the things, whether it's eating or going to the toilet or having sex or all these things, we are ashamed of. And we have to dress up in ways, you know, the sex, traditionally the sex was made into this ritual thing. Even marriage has been so distorted from what it originally is. People absolutely do it for the secret midnight sandwiches, yeah, I guess so. You know, and now I haven't actually properly read into, so I'm kind of sort of making this up myself, but I think might describe it, of what marriage is. What is marriage, okay? Imagine you're like an ancient caveman, and you want to mate. You're a man. What do? You go out and you find a girl who's not your family member, and you kidnap her, and now she's yours. Okay, look, don't say this, because it's the caveman doing this. The caveman's doing this, not me. The caveman's doing this. But this girl, she has a father of her own who's deeply protective of her. And you didn't go that far away. He's going to come find you. He wants his daughter back. You've just kidnapped his daughter. And so you have to go and fight off the father now. This is, you know, it's you're fighting off the, or maybe she already had a husband and you've kidnapped the husband, or you've kidnapped the wife or something. You know, you have to fight off the competitor. I think they did. When I say not family member, I mean like, you know, not incestuous. Like, I think there's like a natural instinct. We're not attracted to our family members, generally speaking. I think not animal. You know, the more complex the animal becomes, I think the more of a bad idea incest becomes. You know, if you're like an amoeboid blob or whatever, you can probably do all the incest you like or whatever. You know, but there's I think there is a natural drive against incest, I think. But it's not that strong. It's not that strong. And as we become more complex, you know, like civilizational stuff, we have trouble with that, and we do start, you know, getting attracted to our sisters and stuff like that. And that's probably where you get the myths of like Oedipus and all this stuff appear, where society begins struggling with this and has to really codify, no, you do not have sex with your mother and stuff. But anyway, so let's say that is the natural biological outcome of just existing in caveman land. You know, a man sees a woman, takes woman, he's physically stronger than he takes a woman, that you know, he rapes her, that's it, and he keeps her to herself so he can have sex again and they have children, blah blah blah. And then Stockholm syndrome kicks in, and so she sticks with him to not be killed by it, and all, and anyway, this is icky, but this is probably how it went. How do you make this less icky? Okay. So the first thing of all is you've got to deal with either the past husband or the father who's very upset about you kidnapping his daughter or wife. So what you do is you can't kill him yet because that will start a war. He might be the king of some other kingdom. You can't kill him or something. So instead, you pay him, give him some money. You pay him off, and then codifying that a bit further, maybe you just flip it around. So instead of you saying, okay, I stole your wife, here, have some money to say sorry about it, why don't you instead just flip it around and say, okay, I'll buy your daughter. I'll give you some money, you can have my daughter. But then the daughter might not want to be married. She might not like it, or something. It might not be approved. So now you have to you go there and you have to speak to the woman. You have to speak to the father, and then you have to agree that yes, this is a this will be a good marriage. This will be a good marriage. You're a good king of this kingdom. I'm a good king of this kingdom, and we'll shake hands. And you'll still have to give me some money though. And then they got to make sure that everyone else is also on board with this. So you bring all the other family members and friends and everyone around the town round, so that they can also verify that that you two you're going to have this girl, and no one else is going to have it. And then now you change your appearance. You go put a ring on, you do your hair up, and now no one else will touch this girl, and this is your girl. And you see where I'm going with this? Do you see where I'm going with this? You create the institution of marriage and the institution of the wedding ceremony to mask what is basically a woman just kidnapping a random girl. And then dealing with the consequences of that. Because we find it icky. And you can still see hints of it. There's the tradition of the man carrying the bride. Why would the man carry the bride? Can she not walk for herself? Well, if she walks for herself, she might run away. But if you carry them, you've kidnapped them. They can't run away. It's because that's what it is. You've taken the man takes the girl as his wife. I'm being controversial here, but I think that is basically what traditional marriage is, and it's only very recently that it's become so much more liberal, when in the past it was very much a sort of patriarchal system. The man it was often the case that the woman wouldn't even see the husband, and the husband wouldn't even see the wife until they were married. That that a man would go to the woman's father, and the father would say, I'll give you my daughter as your wife. This is an extremely common story. I'm just saying, okay. I'm just saying it's I think there is for some reason we find things like eating and sex and pooing and stuff. We find them very icky. And the thing that they all have in common is that they are all natural necessities. There are things that we can't resist doing. That if we don't do them, we either die or we go completely insane. We desire to live in green areas. We desire to live in nature. We want to see trees and grass and the sky and stuff. What does every rich person do? The moment anyone becomes rich and powerful, what do? They leave the city. They have a country villa. This goes back thousands of years, so the dawn of civilization. The moment someone becomes rich, they immediately surround themselves with nature. Think of things like the Hanging Gardens of Babylon and stuff like these massive villas that kings have, and they have beautiful plants inside them. The moment anyone gets any kind of freedom, yeah, it's possible. The moment anyone gets any kind of freedom, they return to nature. And being stuck in a concrete jungle is like synonymous with misery. Why does it make a difference whether we can see a tree or whether we can see concrete? What's the difference? Because we have to see nature. If we don't see nature, we feel like we're in some inhospitable wasteland where there is no survival possible. Even if we're well fed with food from the supermarket, we don't believe it. It doesn't click in our brains. We become insane if we don't surround ourselves with nature. The moment anyone has the freedom to be in nature, they will go to nature. We can't. You cannot repress your natural urges. They must be expressed, and if they are not expressed, they will drive you insane. You must find a way to express them in a way that works with society. You know, you have to eat, but you can't go around in the middle of the town ripping a deer apart like some wolf. That's not suitable for society, but you have to eat. So you form a dinner party, and you have the restaurant, and you have the table, and the dinner, then the knives and the forks and all that, and now you can eat, so you don't die, but it's done in a way that suits society. You know, this, you know. Yeah, I like this kind of stuff. It's fun. It's fun. But I'm exhausted now, so I will give up. And that was a bit of fun. I'll go raid. I'm gonna go raid Bonnie. I'm gonna raid Benny Bonnie because. One moment, hang on. Okay. Because she razzes me frequently, so I'll pay back. Raid. I think I've done this right. Is this gonna work? Invalid username. I spelled it wrong. Bazinga. Whether this shame that is not particular people coming from our own self-domestication is also coming from. Wait. Wherever this shame, I can't figure out your sentence, but it's too late. It's over. Awarida. We have to go to the It's So Over factory.